Working the graveyard shift as a police officer is tough for countless reasons, chief among them being the sheer eeriness of the night. I know that might make me sound a little soft, considering I'm no small guy, but there's something alien about sitting in your car with no one else around. It probably wouldn't be as bad if I worked somewhere without dense forests like Wyoming. Here, even if there's a light nearby, it's hard to see through the foliage. Most nights, there's nothing to do, just me and the silence. Usually, I take the time to catch up on a show or finish a book. When I do get a call, it's usually minor, a wellness check or someone suspicious outside a bar. I don't mind these calls. They get me back to populated areas rather than isolated gravel roads where I'm stuck monitoring speeders. Not exciting, but it pays the bills. 2 nights ago, it was a warm night. I was working my first night shift after returning from vacation. Jimmy, the officer who covered for me, told me he finally understood why I said night shifts were creepy. I laughed, assured him I'd take over for a bit, and suggested he bring something to do next time to distract himself. Since this was the only night shift I had that week, I decided to make it more bearable. I invited him along. He could either sit in the dimly lit precinct or hang out in the cruiser with me. He agreed quickly. We parked at one of our usual hide spots, watched a terrible horror movie, and cracked open a couple of beers. Sure, it wasn't strictly by the book, but we weren't going to get tipsy from just a few drinks. And my work phone rang. It was already 3 a.m., so we'd made it halfway through the shift before something happened. At first, there was giggling on the other end. I almost hung up before hearing Brian's voice, the only other officer on duty. Usually monotone, hearing him laugh was unusual. He told me someone had called from the old AMK factory on Cabin Road. The caller had tried breaking in to steal equipment, and now was somehow stuck inside. Jimmy and I looked at each other, then burst out laughing. Brian asked us to help the person get out and mentioned we could choose whether to arrest him. I wasn't sure I could keep a straight face. At the factory, we drove the 10 minutes to the bramble-covered factory entrance. The place had been abandoned for 10 years. Graffiti covered the walls, and local teens often hung out there. Jimmy, new to the area, looked uneasy. We split up to search for a door or window. Jimmy on the left, me on the right. He yelled, and I ran over, hand on my holster. I expected the worst, but he was doubled over laughing. He had pranked me again. I was relieved but annoyed. It was almost 4 a.m., and we were in a creepy abandoned factory, chasing some idiot. We found a broken window and climbed in. I radioed Brian to call other officers just in case. The factory had no power, so we relied entirely on flashlights. We called out as we moved through the building, navigating past old drills and compressors. At the back hallway, the first mistake happened. We split up. I assumed the caller had already run into the woods, but we needed to clear the building. The layout was complicated. 3 floors, multiple rooms, and 2 disconnected wings. I reached the first room on the 2nd floor, while Jimmy was already on the 3rd. Suddenly, he radioed, a hand sticking out of a doorway. I told him not to go near it and approached cautiously. Then his voice screamed. He'd seen a face in the hallway. I sprinted toward him, forcing open locked doors. Eventually, I saw a faint light at the end of the hallway. A silhouette was dancing in the doorway. My heart sank. Then I realized it was Jimmy. He had set up another prank. I was furious. I stormed out to wait for backup, collecting my gear. Backup arrived within 5 minutes, and I finally felt safe heading back to the station. Jimmy didn't show up for work the next day, and his absence made everyone worried. We eventually discovered his cruiser parked at the factory, but Jimmy himself was missing. An ominous and terrifying realization. I used to work as a pizza delivery driver. One night, a delivery turned into a traumatic experience that made me never want to deliver pizza again. From a young age, I fell in with bad influences, making reckless decisions that often brushed up against the law. One night, fueled by beer and weed, my friends and I sneaked into my neighbor's garage while my parents were away. We got carried away, and I accidentally knocked over a toolbox into spilled solvent. Sparks ignited a fire instantly. My friends bolted, leaving me to face the blaze. My neighbor, Mr. Smith, rescued me and the property, but the damage was done. The police classified my actions as criminal negligence. Despite the lack of intent, the evidence was undeniable: trespassing, smoking, and a burning garage. The judge sentenced me to 4 months in juvenile detention, a period that became a harsh lesson in accountability. After my release, I had to repay the cost of the garage, one paycheck at a time. My parents supported me through the process, Mom helping with resumes, Dad coaching me for interviews. Eventually, I landed a pizza delivery job, a small step toward regaining trust and responsibility. The scent of melting cheese and sizzling pepperoni filled the air. Stacks of 4 pizza boxes teetered on counters, while faded posters of cartoon chefs tossing toppings with exaggerated flair decorated the walls. The man who appeared from behind the swinging kitchen door wasn't the polished interviewer I imagined. His flour-dusted apron clung to him like a second skin, and his voice was deep, gruff, and commanding. Despite my initial apprehension, I needed this job. The interview itself was refreshingly short, focused only on the essentials: age, driver's license, and the ability to juggle a hot pizza while navigating with a GPS. It wasn't much, but in that moment, it felt like everything. The job wasn't easy, but it wasn't impossible either. Long stretches of downtime were punctuated by rushes of orders that left me sweaty and breathless. Base pay was low, barely enough for ramen, but tips were my lifeline. Every penny went toward repaying Mr. Smith, a constant reminder of the debt I owed. The real challenge wasn't the work itself, but the customers. Some were friendly and welcoming, but others could test anyone's patience. Delays or wrong turns could spark outbursts, accusations of stolen items, or demands for free food. Those moments made me question humanity, leaving me wondering if kindness still existed. One night, just past midnight, my shift was nearly over when my boss called with one last delivery. 2 pizzas were shoved into my hands, warm but heavy. The address and phone number on a greasy note suggested this delivery was far outside the usual radius, deep in the countryside. I punched it into the GPS, which suggested a shortcut: Creek Road. The road quickly dissolved into darkness, tree branches brushing against the car, leaves rustling softly. Every turn made me second-guess myself. Eventually, I stopped on a gravel shoulder, checked the number, and called the customer. A gruff, low voice answered, oddly gentle. He described a driveway that looked more like a dirt trail, mentioning a large oak with a tire swing and a rusty mailbox shaped like a red pickup truck. Following his directions, I cautiously drove down the narrow path, headlights cutting through the darkness. Soon, a warm yellow ranch-style house emerged, a single light flickering on the porch. Inside the house, I knocked, no doorbell, and was greeted by muffled music from the 1900s and the sound of slow footsteps. The man appeared partially hidden behind the door. His presence was unsettling, though polite, and he requested I bring the pizzas inside the kitchen. I hesitated. Our training warned never to enter a customer's home, but cautiously stepped in. The interior was like a time capsule: narrow hallways, faded floral wallpaper, a grandfather clock ticking steadily, and a record player spinning a hauntingly melancholic tune. Dust and age permeated every corner. Then I saw her, an elderly woman in the hallway, swaying slowly and erratically to the music, completely naked. This wasn't confidence. It was unsettling, almost trance-like, a disconnect from reality. Terror coiled in my gut as I tore my eyes away and glanced toward the man, who peeked from behind a corner with a piercing stare. When I asked about payment, the man responded with a guttural, chilling laugh. Suddenly, he yelled, "Get him, Mom!" Panic surged. The woman sprinted toward me. Instinct took over. I bolted, dropped the pizza, and raced out the door to my car. The engine roared to life, and I sped away, glancing once in the moonlight to see them standing in the doorway, their intentions opaque and unnerving. I returned to work days later, haunted by the encounter. Sharing the story with coworkers earned mockery, but it didn't lessen my unease. I told my boss I wouldn't return, regardless of court-mandated agreements. Weeks later, I secured a job at a local diner. The pay was better, and every penny still counted toward repaying Mr. Smith's garage. Looking after Boots, a different kind of job. Around the same time, I agreed to check on a friend's cat, Boots, while she was away. Boots was black with white paws, a sweet and cuddly rescue. My tasks were simple: feed her, change water, clean the litter, and spend some time playing or cuddling. The first night went smoothly. Boots ate her wet food, played with her favorite orange plastic mouse, and made biscuits on the blanket as I relaxed with a book. I sent pictures to my friend, who was pleased. Boots purred contentedly on my stomach, a stark contrast to the chaos and fear of my previous job. I waved my hand, trying to disperse the odor. "What a farty butthole you have, Boots. Very unbecoming for a lady," I muttered. The cat meowed, as if in protest, then hopped off the couch. "Come on, Boots, I didn't mean it," I added, setting my book down and checking the time. It was well past 11 p.m. I packed my things, messaged my friend that I was leaving, ensured the garage door closed, and went home. The next night followed the same routine: a little food, a bit of play, and some couch time. Boots settled on my chest again, and the smell hit me immediately. "What is this?" I asked, trying to locate the source. I didn't know if cats needed their anal glands checked like dogs, but it seemed like something needed attention. Boots darted away, meowing from across the room. "Fine, miss, I have to go anyway," I said. The third night, the odor was overwhelming the moment I entered the house. I quickly texted my friend to ask if I should stop the wet food. It smelled like sulfur, similar to when my French bulldog eats cheese. My friend asked about the litter box, and sure enough, it was fine. She suggested reducing the portion slightly and not worrying. Boots could get gassy when stressed. I opened the windows to air out the room, making sure she didn't escape, then carried out the usual tasks: changed water, topped up dry food, and lounged on the couch. The following night, the house was dark, even though I usually left some lights on. I assumed the fuse had tripped, but the switches worked fine. Boots was at the bottom of the attic stairs, and when I called her, she didn't respond. I prepared her food while a chill filled the house. Opening windows helped with the sulfur smell. After 20 minutes, Boots returned with something in her mouth: a dead rat. I yelped, startled, and the rat bolted the moment it hit the floor. Boots chased, but the rat escaped through a kitchen hole. I texted my friend to check the hole, and she told me not to worry. Boots ate her food and returned to cuddle at my feet. The next few nights continued with strange events. Heavy footsteps echoed above us. Boots' pupils dilated, and the atmosphere felt ominous. I left at midnight, feeling increasingly uneasy. I decided to compromise. I would go, feed the cat, clean the litter, replace water, and leave, saving longer visits for daylight. One visit, Boots was waiting like before, rubbing against me. The footsteps began immediately, pounding above as I prepared her food. My pulse raced. The sounds followed me around the house, so I grabbed salt, anything I could find, and spread it as a precaution. The noises stopped. I hurried to the stairs, lights flickering, throwing salt over my shoulder while praying in Latin. The whispering, laughter, and footsteps ceased. I never turned back, went outside, and ran across the street, certain whatever was there had vanished. I texted my friend, who didn't reply. I left plenty of dry food for Boots and waited for her to return. When my friend returned Sunday evening, I explained everything, showing her the photos I had taken. She stopped in her tracks, held my hand, and said, "Can I stay with you tonight?" Confused, I asked why. She revealed she didn't have a cat. Our last conversation was months ago, before the house visits. Later, I discovered another unsettling phenomenon. Curious, I searched my rare name on Google and found a website with my exact name. It contained diary-like entries eerily similar to my own life. Visits to baseball games, pets, cars, even birthdays matched mine. Attempts to interact failed. The site was static. I emailed the owner, who replied only, "Found you." Separately, I began exploring TikTok. My daughter Grace was away on a Girl Scouts camping trip. While browsing, a video appeared titled "Girl Scout Tragic Camping Trip," posted by a user called Serial Killer Blossom. The video showed 3 girls on a small yellow bus. My heart sank as one girl wore a sweatshirt identical to Grace's. Panic set in. Attempts to contact the adult in charge, Carol, failed. Her number disconnected, as did Grace's. I called another parent, Joy, who verified Carol wasn't who she claimed to be. Attempts to reach 911 were slow. They said the situation didn't yet appear to be an emergency. Meanwhile, more videos emerged showing the girls on the bus, silent and scared, in a dark, forested location. My anxiety escalated as the videos continued, showing the girls at a remote campsite with fearful expressions. Grace looked like she had seen something terrifying. I felt helpless and furious, screaming at the screen, "Don't you harm my daughter!" And that brings us to the present. This is a chilling example of how ordinary routines, like caring for a cat or trusting someone with your child, can spiral into situations that test our instinct, perception, and courage. All right, guys, that wraps up these stories. I hope you found them engaging. If you'd like to see more, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. It really helps. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.